I'm so pleased to meet you. You're Krishnananda Trobe, yeah, and you work with your wife, I presume. Amanda Trobe.
Yes.
Yeah.
We dropped the last names.
Yeah.
It's just Krishnananda, pretty much.
Yeah.
Yeah. We work mostly with groups of mixed men and women, but we do deal with men issues, of course, because it comes up.
Yeah. 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 So I invited you here to discuss what have happened the last 20 years in what can you say, the men's collective understanding of themselves, and what is going to happen, what trends can you see? And you work, I read that you worked in many different countries, so maybe you've seen some cultural differences in male organization.
Yeah, there are huge cultural differences. I think that one of the big changes, evolving changes, is men are able to be more vulnerable and to get in touch with their feelings as something that they find value in terms of their self-esteem. Whereas in the past it may be that feelings, fear, insecurity, sadness, and so on would diminish their self-esteem. So that's one change. Also, I think there's a lot of change around sexuality, because traditionally men have been very focused on proving themselves as sexual heroes or sexual, and I think that's changing. I think we call it compensated sex, where men are basically focused on performance and that their ego is attached to their virility, and it's really a cover for what we call the wound of castration, which is the fear that behind all that compensation is a fear that I'm not good enough. So I think for men to be open to deal with that, it's a huge step, because it wipes away all this kind of bullshit machismo and for women it's a drag to have to deal with that. The men are constantly trying to puff themselves up because they can't connect. That's changing, I think.
Isn't there that the behavior that you get rewarded for in the work life is somewhat the opposite that works socially with coming home to the family and kids?
Yeah, I think so, to some extent. I mean, it kind of depends on the work environment. I think, environments like in Silicon Valley, which are a little different maybe, more evolved, more kind of casual, and I don't know, I haven't worked in those, but I think that it's changing, that it isn't all about performance and toughening up. But on the whole, I think that's probably true. That the male values, the negative male values of being competitive and aggressive and pushing and so on, is still pretty dominant, which is really an issue for a man and a woman to open up their vulnerable side, because we also have a lot of women who are very much in their male side and achievement and money and so on, which is great, but then they abandon their sensitive side. So in a way it isn't just man and women as two separate species, but it's the male principle and the female principle, and the negative male principle is aggression, competitiveness, but the positive male principle is going for it and being total and having focus and persevering and wanting adventure and to grow. These are kind of really positive male qualities. So it's those qualities that I think men need to develop, to be total, to persevere, to go for things even if it's difficult, and to cultivate their feminine side.
Yeah. You were talking about huge different cultures, different
Right.
my English broke. My huge cultural differences between how male show up in different parts of the world.
Right.
Can you
Yeah.
talk a little bit about that?
For instance, in countries like Sweden, Norway, where we work, it's pretty equal the number of women and men we get in the workshops. But as we go further south to Italy or Turkey, it's much more rare. China, hardly any men. And it's women who are opening to going deeper and working with feelings and emotions and so on. That's palatable for Scandinavia, for America, Canada, and so on. But in Latin America, Southern Europe, not so much. Where they're still kind of in these values of male dominance and male assertion and this kind of thing. A little different in Italy, but I think that, for instance, in Turkey, the men are very compensated on the whole. We worked in Turkey, and it's tough. Once they get women, men, it's really hard for them to uncover their fears, because for them that's humiliating. Latin America, it's similar. It's harder. They're interested in tantra groups and sex, but not so interested in intimacy, real intimacy. That's yeah.
So, do you think that this global culture with internet and courses and leaders that go in around the globe, will this have any impact? Will this have any change over time?
For sure. And we can also already begin to see it in, say, China, which is really very new to emotional exploration. And, it's so focused on achievement, and that's slowly, because they get rich, and once they're rich, they look for something more. And we've even had few cases of men who are really opening, and it's deeply touching to see a healthy relationship coming out of that culture, Also in Latin America, it's very rare still that men and women are meeting each other as equals, willing to share in a real way instead of a compensated way. It's still rare. It's happening. And for sure, the global media is changing this.
I was thinking, we have a very strong feminist tendency and a big presence online with feminist theory, which is good. Where I can see one of the counter arguments is that feminists tend to collectively blame men for what men have done. So one man do something awful and everybody else is blamed because of we're also men. Right. And I was in the car driving around, I was thinking maybe we could take it around, that maybe it's not collective blame, but a more positive view at it would be that maybe we men have collective responsibility in some sense to for the situation, because this is our world.
First of all, I think that the feminist thing has its drawbacks, that it can become blamey and in a way too masculinized. So the feminine qualities of receptivity, positive feminine qualities of receptivity, are also put down. So there's a kind of a kickback of rage for all the centuries that women have been repressed. And look at the Middle Eastern, the Arab countries where women are still being repressed. So you can understand that there's collective rage. But at a certain point, that also gets old. And I think as men begin to see that kind of behavior towards women is, I think one of the big things for a man in relationship is to have the courage to honor the feminine. Almost like bowing down to the wise woman in their woman. And that takes a lot of courage for men to let the woman be powerful in their nature. Because the feminine principle is deeply wise. Now, of course, women can be very immature too, but there is a feminine wise principle in every woman, and I think it's a big thing for a guy to honor that, you know. In fact, most of the healthy relationships that I've seen, that's part of it. That the woman will honor the man if he's manning up, standing up for his, going for things. Like I said earlier, the positive man. He's going for stuff. And a woman will not respect her man if he doesn't face his demons in a way, or go for things and overcome his disappointments and hurdles. That's what gets respect, I think. The woman has to see that their guy is respectable, but also respectable in the sense of being willing to be sensitive and apologize if he's being a jerk, you know. So, and then from the man's side, to be able to listen to his woman, you know, really listen and feel her, and you know, then the woman feels honored, you know, and then she can just be more wise. There isn't a fight.
Yeah, you put it beautifully. You told me that you and Amana been to India and been practice a lot of meditation. Do you think that helps the man to be present and engaging with the woman?
I do. I think that meditation is, I mean, I have my best friend is not really a meditator, but he's profoundly sensitive and he honors his woman. So I don't think it's essential, but I think it helps to go in instead of always going out. And I think if you meditate, you create an inner space, a kind of a refuge where you can drop into whenever you get disturbed, or so that you're not always out there trying to prove yourself, but the real space is in. Just be with yourself, and whatever comes out of that is going to be fine, instead of just coming out of reaction. You know. So maybe another male quality is to come from clarity and purpose, and not reaction, not emotional, you know, kind of a negative male thing is to like, you know, this tough thing, you know.
Why is it that men can put in thousands of hours in practicing sports, for instance, or a job, or not even a job that they're passionate about? We can put in thousands of hours of training for a job that is like mediocre,